welcome to hello, and welcome to hello, and welcome to Cartoon Kabala, Kabala, coming at you live from the Ella Valley, fasting and praying. A lot of clarity in the heat, and the clarity is rough, and it burns like the summer sun. The clarity inside that externalizes itself into violence, verbal, and worse. And the hope of a consolation within it is the hope for intimacy amidst the worst, which is the main hope, right? Is there anything people hope for, anything animals hope for, mammals, more than just intimacy amidst the roughest moments? We're going to learn a piece from the Bnei Yissaschar, Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, who is such a devotee of the hope of the better thing coming, the sort of maintained knowledge in the hope of the better thing coming, and worse, kind of trying to prove the better thing coming within the thing. Like it's a problem amidst the worst of the fires, the worst of the hostilities, the worst of the words and bombs, the worst of the aggressions and defenses. It's a challenge during all of them to know or hope that amidst is already, at the very least, the embrace now. There's so much to go through, and so much that has been going through. I'm reminded of the Torahs of the Piasetzner Rebbe, of Kalman Kalanimus Shapira, died pretty rough in the Holocaust, saw his kids all die, and are all around him, and famously evolved in terms of the Torah he'd give over, because his deepest heart's devotion and active gig was take care of the kids, and as they all were taken, had to change the narrative of the Torah he was giving over, because the great blessing and curse in the Torah is how much it does have to grow, because the times themselves shift, because the needs themselves shift, and so the Torah has to be expressed in a range of ways that it has never been able to be, about a range of things that it never was able to or had to. Just the range of peoples, it's such a different range. The range of things people live with and from. And let's say all of the opportunity for a new thing to happen come amidst the space that's made. And this is the theology of the broken tablets. Do you know the theology of the broken tablets? It's the main thing that the 17th of Tammuz and the fast of the 17th of Tammuz is associated with. Moses comes down. He already hears from God the bad news. He's already warned. You may not like what's going on down there, Moses. And he says, let's just go see. And he sees. Desperate celebration. Amidst fear, amidst pressure, amidst urgency, just like trying, banging hard on the golden bull that we are, banging hard, trying. And the story goes, it was not malicious. Moses is the one who has always known his devotion to them, not just to him, but to them just as much, let's say, right? Write me out of your book. For the survivors, at least, of this particular famous incident that happened, which is the bigger deal, not the breaking of the tablets, for which he's appreciated. Breaking the tablets was in the hopes that would be enough. Breaking the tablets was like, I've heard it compared to when you have something awful you just want to say, and it's so true, and it's so good, and it's so right, but maybe it's also awful, and maybe it'll really be taken poorly, maybe, like, one thought traditionally is, it was so good, the original Torah, but how good could it have been if it couldn't make us better? Is one, they say in the name of Naftali Propshitz. Moses smashes the first luchot, and traditionally, who do we have it from? The tradition that God said, thank you. Yasher koach asher shivarta. Haluchos asher shivarta, yasher koach asher shivarta. Reish Lakish, noted rogue, thief, brigand, gladiator, Reish Lakish, describes knowing. Where does he have it from? Who knows, right? Heaven directly, Eliyahu Navi. Where does he know? He just knows. When Moses smashed the luchot, it was a kindness, and God appreciates kindnesses. There's a Zen Torah there, right? Can you do this with your Torah? To prove how real it is, what it is inside of you, how much the words don't quite describe it, and how much, like, let's try to say it another way that tries to describe what the thing is. Traditionally, everyone heard different things when they saw the same words or heard the same words. Don't kill, it's like, oh, don't ignore, don't embarrass, don't avoid, don't kill. Boidbar min yamin ben amitzarim ainu min yuzayin b'tamuz ata Hashem amir ben amitzarim. This is Maimar Bet in the Bnei Yissaschar. He only does one thing for Tammuz and Av together, really wants to co-identify them strongly. It's just heartbreaking for me because this one is so special and the hurt in it is so special. And he emphasizes it earlier, the hurt of Tammuz, the judgment that is functionally unrelenting, which is the criticism of the moon, which is the truth of the problem that they come down on us for, that we come down on them for, that they come down on us for, that we come down on them for, amidst the clampings of the moon. My mother is a Cancer, my stepdaughter is a Cancer, and they are wonderful because they care, but their care is expressed, alhamdulillah, in the truth of the criticisms, said as best as possible, with all the love that's there. And this is the fundamental attention. This is why Hera chose the crab and put it into the heavens, for clamping a little bit and drawing attention, because it is a sort of a rough gesture, a judgment. He's deciding Who told him to do that? You know, wasn't a thoughtless thing. Wasn't a no. Yasher koach. The way you say yasher koach to someone who does something. Ashivarta. All language and all terminology must be set aside when it becomes wrong and stupid and inappropriate in context. And this is one of the great failures of all of us to grow and adapt. But what a tragedy it is to lose good language, all the good words that used to express our deepest heart feelings just because they're idols, just because they become an automatic form of casual abuse that we're no longer implicated in because just the language and the slang itself. There have been jihads, fatwas within Judaism against using language, even word like guy, like this guy. Is that offensive? It may have been once. It might be one day again. And it's really important to be sensitive because that is the work in relationship to the judgment of the crab. It's right. I'm so sorry. And this acknowledgement is what gives the sun its glory and forms Leo, I think, ultimately. I think this is why he wants to define Tammuz in the context of Av and define Cancer in the Tammuz of Leo, in the context of Leo, because one really is a reaction to the other. And from that fundamental alchemy, the moon and the sun, everything else sort of emanates. And I think there is a fundamental contemplative sort of number teaching here, the relationship between the fourth and the fifth. Amidst which I want to talk about the negation of the negation and Indiana Jones. But first things first. Aleph. Yud Zayin B'Tammuz Bonish Dibru Aluchot. Why do we know that the 17th of Tammuz is when the tablets were broken? There's a Gemara, Tanish Chafav. Below B'Mikrel Yud Zayin Davka B'Gematria Tov. And you should know, it's not for nothing that it was on the 17th. You know what the major association with 17 is in Judaism and the Kabbalah? Good. It's Gematria Tov. Good. So many great songs because it's Gematria good. Apparently, that's how long the original Joseph, whose yurtzeit was, how long he was in jail. He had a good time. Gematria Tov, Tet Vav Zion. Not Zion, Bet. Mm. והוא הפי שאריזה מפני מה אין טוב בדברוס הראשונות כי היה גלוי בידוע לפני יפרח שמות שעתידים להשתבר ואמרו חס ושלום פסק הטוב על כן אין בהם טוב רק בלוחות שניות לומר בכל שכל אלה עניינים טוב. It's not for no reason that it's on the 17th, the fast. This fast, which is ostensibly associated with disasters, historical disasters galore, there's a bunch. You can look them up. There's a bunch of historical disasters. The 17th of Tammuz, and the whole general 3 weeks in general. I understand this alchemically, geologically. The summertime is rough. Invasions galore. Shit gets mean. You'll notice all these invasions, all these wars, all these actions. Part of it is because when it's bright, there's a lot of judgment. When it's bright, there's a lot of seeing the problem and thus being the problem. Because part of the problem with seeing the problem is projecting the problem. And I mean this literally in the context of defensiveness and defense industry. You have to check for the problems. Now you're the asshole. You found the problem, reporting the problem, making a big deal about the problem, coming up with solutions just angrily, just immediately. I'm so sorry, my love. I'm so sorry. It's so rough, and we get so mad. writ large, we get so mad. Why is there no good? Why was there no good in the first Luchot? They're fucking garbage. You know, the ones that God made himself with his own fingers, made perfectly with the true original gospel, with the floating samichs and the floating mem sophites, just engraved completely into this cosmic, indelible, true structure of the way things really are. And the thing is just trash. It's a question if they even keep the broken pieces. The broken pieces become a euphemism in Hasidus for like, the thing you have left after it's ruined. Chas v'shalom. Chas v'shalom. The Arizal, the greatest Kabbalist ever, the most fundamental dude, the Holy Lion, the Arizal, Maran, Yitzchak, asks, why was there nothing in these rocks? Why? You think the nature of the holy would be to live in the holy and engrave itself into the rocks of the holy completely. You think that would be the nature of the holy, since it is so much the nature of intentionality and concentrating and putting things into spaces. Why wouldn't the stones be so holy? The stones of the tablets that were the thing, that were the truest true and the realest real, that was somehow just like too good for the world. Why was there nothing good in the rocks? You could just sell them for money, whatever, who cares? Because it was very clear to Allah, the highest and purest and onlyest and absolute master of everything, that it was not forever. I know when he realized the temple would not be forever. And I know when he realized human lifespans wouldn't be forever. But when did he realize this? I don't know this one. That the tablets, that the words, that the language for the good and the right, that the language for the thing to know to keep you on track forever would one day just break. Just bye, this American pie. Drove the Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. ואמרו חס ושלום פסק הטוב. He knew this thing would fall apart and break, and said, I don't want that to be the end of the good in it. It can't be what the good in it depends on. The good in it has to be so much deeper than the little things. Chas v'shalom, pasak hatov. Perish forbid that the good that I gave should be lost at all. The love that I loved in words, in language, through the vessels. על כן אין בהם טוב, רק בלוחות שניות לומר שכל אלה עניינים טוב. So in the first ones, there's no good. Only in the second ones do they say that all these things, all these concepts, all these contexts, inyanim, contexts, were good, tov. And so the thing happened on the 17th, on the Yom of Tov, the good day, the 17th of Tammuz. V'zehu shekatav Arizal v'yikra Aaron v'yomer Chag l'Adonai b'chag Amar kem b'nivua she'atid li'od ha'yom ha'u Chag v'yom Tov Yisrael yavor Oda Yedeyahu oh 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 oh. And this is what the Arizal says. When Aharon, the high priest, enlisted in the making of the golden calf, enlisted in the ceremonies around it on this day, said, okay, we're going to make a holiday. That it was prophecy and command. It will be a holiday. Because one day it'll be clear what's good about what we lost. Fiat. And then it's a holiday. And he wants to say more about this. I need to warn you guys. I need to warn you. He gets really into the Arizal and really into the davening. And you're in luck, because those are some of my favorite things. So I think we're going to get into it. Are you ready? Bet. בשנת קביעות השעה פשוטה, חוקת ובלק נפרדות ומטות מעשה מחוברות, ולמה לא בהפך מן יכול להגיד משום דמהדרין עד כל מה אפשר לקרוא את הפרשיות שמבואר בהם, חלוקת הארץ ומימי נצרים, הנה פרשת מטה מסע הדברים, יש בהם חוקת הארץ, לזה קוראים אלו הפרשיות תמיד, בימי נצרים להורות שבתחה. The order of the parshiot of the Torah, of the 5 books that are read in a given year, the summertime ones are the worst. Worst, you say? They're mostly avoided. There's less commentary on them. They're the worst. It's the atrocities. It's the atrocities. First, it's just the betrayals. And then it's the atrocities. And then it's atrocities all the way to the end of the book of Numbers, of Sepher Bamidbar, the 4th of the 5 in the Pentateuch. We saw this Indiana Jones film the other night. Cancer daughter loves Indiana Jones. It was the 5th, and it was a negation of the 4th, because the 4th was so bad. And why was the 4th so bad? Because it was the truest and purest concentration of Steven Spielberg's priorities. Right? Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, once upon a time, shared priorities. And through these priorities, they made a covenant. And from this covenant, a trilogy. They did not make the whole trilogy themselves. They traded off. They really just made one movie. But from that one movie emerged like the stars in the sky and the expanse of the heavens. And this is a little bit the collaborative model that parallels what happened in the 60s with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, or Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, or Stan Lee and someone else, or Jack Kirby and... Well, there you go. There's an exploitive but also creative cycle where the criticism endures forever of Stan Lee. And let's say in this one, the cycle goes back to the problem of what is precious in cinematic memory. And the answer is very simple. The war against the Nazis is precious. And so we go back to it all the time. The pop moment where justification and the thus fundamental valorization of the thing that media and Hollywood are. Capitalism and liberalism, right? The American way, right? The moment where Superman was co-opted to something called the American way, which itself was the co-option of Superman from its creators by its owners to whatever degree. the exploitation of the thing that allows the thing to be, and then the hope of ownership within, which is maybe the highest echelon within that sort of alternative creative model, where the creator is the owner. Walt Disney really is the spearhead, and Madonna in the 80s. And similarly, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas coming together. I said Lee and Kirby, but I guess I mean Lee and I'm really thinking of, let's say, like the Jewish writer and the Italian artist. Not that I know where George Lucas is from, but it's a very genteel name, George. But meanwhile, all the Josephs a generation ago were all Georges because it was such a cool name once upon a time. For the cool names we lose. The fourth Indiana Jones film betrays the ultimate true fear of liberalism, which is of Soviet communism, as opposed to Nazism, which was the true and pure villain of the American project, and not exactly communism. Because you'll notice the war against communism sort of pivoted into a war against, dissent and poor people, more than communism had a chance to in America, right? And everyone knows the Soviet version was so terrifying that even the European response was like, could market itself as in response to the fear of. The American narrative, which is Indiana Jones, let's say, in its way, because part of the work of Hollywood has been the sort of offering of marketing campaigns to the American project itself in the hopes of validating its own modalities, movie theaters and cinema writ large. And in this way, they become iconic as national figures. Let's say some cinematic icons are transnational. Let's say Charlie Chaplin, and the Charlie Chaplin um, character, when it crossed over into Sesame Street, was a little bit of a reclamation of internationalism by Sesame Street, by the creators of Sesame Street, who at the time had a lot of control in what the characters were doing and who they would be and what things would be about. Before, the larger forces just came to just say, here, live forever in my little box. Indiana Jones offers to be finished in the same way that the 10 Pentateuch, the sort of canon part of the Torah, offers to be finished. Not really, but for the sake of liberating the better, truer version of the thing that is emerging. Not clear how much Indiana Jones is great for, TikTok, but I think it's probably great for TikTok. Big question if they would try to adapt into some other thing, and the answer is no. They gave up on Shia LaBeouf. They kind of maybe we'll see what they try to do with Phoebe Waller-Cates, but Phoebe Waller-Cates as a metaphor for the criticism in capitalism, in liberalism, that makes infinite betrayal of choice, takes the sacred object, puts it on the market. The degree to which Indiana Jones does not want to do that is the degree to which there is a core, hard to call it a nationalism because it's about archaeological things. But how strange to be an archaeologist not plundering for a country. As we've come to learn, from Black Panther, John Oliver. What is an archaeologist? What is a museum? If not just the plunder and thievery of one over another? And what is Indiana Jones if not a thief like the other thieves, but just for a different organization and a different sort of extended network? Extended network, I think, becomes the true moral, able to have the friends who like him in the places, And one of the core criticisms of him at the beginning of this fifth one, or in the middle of this fifth one, is the limit of how much he has friends, but then made clear all along how much he is loved and adored and appreciated. He, let's say, conventional martial responsibility going out there because he is a martial hero, Spartan, quiet, ultimately just directed for the sake of the mission, but also unafraid. The hat is a tell. The hat is a uniform, and a uniform means a soldier. And this is part of the secret of the Pentateuch. Like the Quran, like the New Testament, It's for soldiers. In a year where the order of the Parshiot is conventional, the two Parshias, Chukat and Balak, are separated, read separate times. And this is one of the schisms between Israel and America this year in practice in the Jewish temples. In every single one on a Saturday, they'll read the Parsha. And in some places, they'll read Chukat with Balak. And in some places, they keep them separate. Matod Masai and Chubarot, and Matod Masai together in the same year. Because in a year where they have a whole extra month, they give them all their own week. But in a year where they don't, which is most years, 12 months years, a couple of them get kind of concentrated and put near each other. Why not the opposite? Why these ones? Why not other ones? Why not the other way around? Why not the opposite? Why these ones? Why not other ones? Why not the other way around? And you could say, quotes the name of the tour, you could say, because one is before because everything you can talk about that allows for the giving of the pieces of the land. Let's say that as a metaphor for personal clarity amongst other things. Giving of your piece of the land, right? The land is the will, right? Fundamentally. And this is why the triumph of the will is so cursed and the triumph of the land is so cursed, because the will is the beginning of the imposition, but the imposition is the beginning of the expression. And this is the main tension we have in communicating and prioritizing as people with each other. This is what makes it a criticism all the time, let's say. And so the part that lets us have our peace is the part makes sense to want to just read first, before the schisms. In this time, the specific schisms that coincide with this time, because traditionally, when the spies went out, it's when the moon started, and when the things go awry 17 days later is when things go awry 17 days later. Even as much as years earlier, 17 days later, a good time after. Zekorin ela Parshiot Tamid. בנצרים לראות בתפתך ישראל את חלק הארץ. גם כן וגם פרשיית פנחס מבוא בחלוקות הארץ. This Torah means things so different in our time than it did when he wrote it and when he said it and when he thought it, when he felt it, The comfort of knowing that your land will be yours is a consolation from the roughness of how much we're losing and how much we lost. I'm so sorry for the dispossessions that I live amidst, while I am still so comforted by them. And this is part of the horror of security and stability, and of the pivot and of the criticism. And the standard. In a better world, we'd be better with each other. In a better world, we'd find a way to take more responsibility for the safety and security of each other and identify with enough to prioritize that universally and starting from me. And what a comfort it is that you have a place that you'll be able to do that from, a place that is yours, a place that is coming, and a place that is here. Wouldn't that be great? And then the example he gives, Parshas Pinchas, the great zealot, who saves all those lives by just shutting a thing down, and is the terrible role model to all the zealots who feel very justified. Traditionally, he's punished for his zealotry by living forever, becoming Elijah, witnessing how good people actually are, and being forced to be happy about it, being forced to get used to witnessing the humanity. But let's say, even there, they talk about the distribution, right? They talk about the distribution, the comfort of knowing that peace is yours. even amidst the violence of knowing the limits of how much space it seems safe to make. Okay, Madrin, Kol Madef Shar Shekru, Gam Parshas Pinchas B'mei HaElem, Gam Parshas Pinchas Nemarim, Kol HaMoadim. Parshas Pinchas they read on every holiday. It's very exciting. Someone just steps in and takes responsibility for everything and just stops a problem. What else do we want Indiana Jones to do, right? Step in, solve a problem, make everything okay, and never die, and live forever, and just skip right ahead, right? Pinchas is identified with the guy who never dies, who lives forever and solves the problem and comes and swoops in and becomes the character you want him to be because he started out so angry and so violent. Indiana Jones. Hard to imagine the context of that first movie except for the history of the heroes in movies that were hard to contextualize. And this is the degree to which the reconsumptive cycle in Hollywood is parshanut, is the Pharisee art of just creative reframing, contravinced and contraposed with the great visual tradition of just how to make the story move and how to make the characters look good. גם פרשת פנחס נאמרים כל מועדים, הנה שינחמו ישראל מוסיף להם מועדים בבא, שעתידין הימים האלה להיות ששון לשמחה ומועדים טובים. They say it every moed, every holiday, to remind of the consolation that this has to become better. That the worst of these times and the worst of these clarities are giving us sensitivity and clarity. And it's the cursed Holocaust apologetic that now applies, to the Holocaust that we're, to whatever degree, lording over chas v'shalom. If not just looking down sadly as someone else does, chas v'shalom. If not just distantly making excuses for, because we appreciate how much is done for us. Chas v'shalom. That was not the deep Kabbalistic part. מבוא בכוונת אריזה, כוונת ברכת אבות בימי בני צרים, שים ברכה ברכתה יקי בבקי, כוונו חילוף חוויה בשם תדהר. היינו אותות הקודמים. Do you guys know about this practice? It's very weird. It's understood in the intention of the Arizal that in the intentions around saying the blessings on the forefathers in the Shmona Esrei, there's a blessing on the forefathers. The three directions, Gadol Gibor Menorah, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, and it's one of the bowings. It's one of the main Baruch Atah bowings. When you say the name of God, which you don't say, but when you say the thing you say instead of the name of God, instead of having the name of God in mind, there's a slightly altered version that his books say, just the letter before. Before the Yud is a Tet. Before the Hey is a Daled. Before the Vav is a Hey. Before the Hey is a Daled. Tidhar. That's not a word that I can't say, Tidhar, as opposed to the Tetragrammaton. Let's talk about the Tetragrammaton in the context of the Pentateuch. 4 books as opposed to 5. And the dynamic between Cancer and Leo, and the dynamic between the book of Numbers and Deuteronomy parallels, I think, this fundamentally and inherently. The transition of the Tetragrammaton, which itself is only 3 letters. And let's say the Pentateuch, in many ways, was really supposed to be just a trilogy, right? Genesis, Exodus, Laws. That was it. And how do I know this original structure, besides the tradition that this original structure was supposed to be the way it was, is that eventually, when they bundle together the entire Old Testament, it's called Tanakh, a Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, writings, the thing, Torah, Indiana Jones, which it just always is. And all the Indiana Jones films are Indiana Jones from now on. All the John Wayne films are John Wayne films from now on. And all the Torahs are Torahs from here on out. Nevi'im, but wait, all the Torah, then there's the things on top of the Torah that are still Torah, which is prophets, right? The sequel, the return of the Jedi, right? The Temple of Doom, Exodus, right? It's a whole different thing that is the fundamental, real center of the thing. The book of Exodus is the Bhagavad Gita of Judaism on some level, right? The thing that is really the thing within the thing. You can't make movies out of the rest of it because the third sequel is just boring, and like you have to read. It's just fan lore and fan service, just the rules, the law. Here is the big list of the book of the law. And so it goes through everything and rejiggers and re-goes through everything and just sort of tries to draw the conclusion. And what a satisfying resolution Batman Forever really is supposed to be, that third perfect Spider-Man movie that just makes it all, just like wraps everything up, but also makes a door open for a better future of Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man movies are different because they do keep making Spider-Man movies. Of 3, then 2, then ... Then the Spider-Verse is open so that even the range of other things are within the other thing and within the other thing. And there's words for that too, I'm sure, that level of functioning in relationship to canon, where the whole, I guess, syncretism, I guess that's what it is, syncretism. All the Spider-Mans, including the mythical African ones and the sort of like ones from other companies that were parody of Spider-Man, they're all in it, right? The Mad Magazine parody of Spider-Man is canon within Spider-Man. It's one of the myriad just acceptable, true universe in it, right? The Mad Magazine parody of Spider-Man is canon within Spider-Man. It's one of the myriad just acceptable, true universes. And the names are very seasonal. Because the 4-letter name of God, let's say, the third one is controversial. Within the 4-letter name, the third one is the beginning of the pointing of the problem, right? Truth, the sun. But the fourth one is the negation of the negation and the reaction, which makes it the most compromised. And the 4-letter name of God is more compromised and more invested and more associatable with the world and what the world is, the further in it goes. And that's part of why we can't pronounce it, because we're talking about the thing that's above that most of the time. When we talk about the Holy One, blessed be He, we talk about God, we are talking about the thing that fills all worlds and encompasses all worlds, but we're mostly talking about the absented part of the thing, the source of the thing, part of the thing, the source of the thing, fountain of the thing. And maybe part of the concept of inverting the intention around the name is inverting how much we assume or willing to assume, or inverting how much we are not willing to assume. Because willingness to assume, making an ass out of you and me, is taking responsibility, noticing the problem. The work of all the overharried mothers, all the overstressed directors, noticing the problem and getting on it and working with it and around it and through it, maybe around and through it. Recall in my Simpsons cosmology, speaking of 5s, Maggie is the moon, right? The one who cannot speak. But she can speak, and she does whenever it's helpful, but mostly skips right through. היינו אותיות הקודמים לאותיות הוויה, הנה השם הזה התחלקו ירמוז לימי בין מצרים לתמוז. היינו אותיות הקודמים לאותיות הוויה, הנה השם הזה התחלקו ירמוז Mosley May Ben Mitzarim the Tammuz ve'av. Otiot Tet Dalid Hem Yud Gimel. Romzim Yud Gimel Yemei Tammuz Minatanus Ad Sofa Chodesh. So there's 13 days left in this moon, hinted to in the first two letters of this name, Tet and Dalit, 9 and 4, which is 13. And the second half, Otiot Hey Dalit Hem Tet Romzin Letet Yamim Asher Min Reish Chesh Avatanit Asher Emeluenu Yimkiv Yochoim Behester Adir Achem Ashim Yibrach Banu. This four-letter name breaks into the 13 and the 9. Because these days, right before the name, are the hidden ones, the hidden times when God is the most hidden, as it were. Just the blazing sun, the Apollyon in his place. Oh. Of remembering, let's say, as opposed to 17, 13. What are the 13? The kindnesses, the mercies, the forgivenesses that make space just to breathe. Why is Shabbos so special? Why is humanity so special? Just being allowed to take a second to breathe. Oh, fixing of Ari Champin, the patient, and the 9 fixings of Zer Anpin, the broken vav that was never broken because the truth is perfect, but can only be so imposed. Arik, the patient and absented God, who made everything and is the oldest part and is, let's say, original patience and the original will behind all the things, right? Let's say, all-encompassing, defined by his inactivity, as opposed to Zer Anpin, the active force, the impatient one, defined by doing all the things, making the winds move, making the fruits sweet, making the people just who they are, whatever kind of impatient we are, whatever kind of impatient that tzaddikim are, is the kind of impatient he is, just on it. Helpful dad, catch the football, catch the baby. On it, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it, says the helpful king, says the young and helpful king. The 9 tikkunim of Zer Anpin, the short beard, the short dark beard as opposed to the long white beard, is a known concept in the Zohar. The 13 having to do with the days of waiting. Moses breaks the luchot, waits to see what to do. And the 9 days of fixing action. When the spies were sent at the beginning of Av, they cried. Everyone cried for a night for no good reason, unhelpfully. Urgent did, just a little faster and sooner than they really needed to. An empty crying. Bechia shel chinam. Let's notice for a second the deep, quieted value, the social faux pas of crying for nothing, the haunting promise of supernal, mean parent. I'll give you something to cry about. And this is the initial weakness that we described at one point, being also the weakness of the other side of Haman, power. Power itself collapses on itself in this time. Because the luchot are power itself, right? What's the problem with the language of the luchot, of the law? Whatever it is the problem of the structure. Being stuck in something and limited to something. And this is the main failure of the Bnei Ephraim that he ties it into. הנה, כנסת ישראל מקבל את כל הרעות העליונים, על כן זאת נקרא ראשי תיבות תיקוני זר ארי. Zot, this, is the fixing of the two fundamental active faces, the completely inactive patient. Dafka, the immediate, urgent. והוא שיש לרמז בפסוק מאת אדוני הייתה זאת. This is the thing we call the thing that's amazing. For it came from God, and this is Rashi Tevot Zer Atik Tikuni. He niflat be'enenu, niflat hidden, mechuseh b'ne'elam be'enenu. I knew be'enenu, in our two eyes. These two moons, which are the two eyes in the same Arizal theology, where the left eye is Tammuz and the right eye is Av. והנה השם תדהר בהקבלו קצתו עד קצותו, דהיינו י"ג פעמים ט' בגמטריה ק"י"ז. And you know that name Tidhar that we said, which is 4, 9 plus 9, 18. When you double it on its side, which would say 13 times 9, let's say you take the two parts of it, break it up, and multiply them by each other. Multiply the 13 by the 9 in the hopes of, resolving between Atik and Zer. It comes out Gematria 117. And he quotes a source. Ayem b'sefer Brit Kahuna Olam Mamar Kedusha Meshuleshet. There is a thing to do this, And he quotes a source for it. B'gematria Noam Havaya. 117 is the Gematria, the delight, or Neum Havaya, the word of God. Titbonen b'zeh, you can contemplate that. Dehena Hashem anal b'gematria chafbet neged otiyot haTorah asher bahen ba l'dibur Hashem yitbarach Yisrael. That this is the gematria of the 22. Havaya, Neum Havaya. Let's say the thing that is gematria many times. What? Is gematria 22? I guess Havaya. No, it's 26. What are you talking about? Neged otiyot Torah b'gematria chafbet neged otiyot Torah asher bahen ba b'dibur Hashem yitbarach Yisrael. I wonder how that works. In this world, in this exile, I have fallen into silence, like it says in Psalms. There's no vision. There is no vision breaking out. Right? That's how low we are in the criticisms and in the implications. Losing a vision. And when we lose our vision, part of the hope is that we'll see something beyond our vision. The hope is that we will start to hope beyond. Imagine a genuine humanism that overcame and overtook all the politics, populist and nationalist, progressive and humane, just amidst. It's kind of hard to imagine. Amidst what populisms and nationalisms are wrapped around almost inherently, right? Languages and slangs, familiarities. אין חזון נפרץ והנה הכוונה בימי אלה לרחמנו כימי עולם. Because there is no vision, and when there is no vision is when you see how much more there is that wants to come. And this is hinted in the other line in Psalms. Zot, this consoled me in my eyes. This, the fixing of impatience and the fixing of urgency, healed me in my eyes, which is the two moons. These two moons. Ki imratcha hitani, because your words, because your newest words, because the things you help me say and the things you help us say, the better language that heals each other through, that says writer, but also writer, gives me life. Achiyut sheli hayideh shani me'orer Hashem kaf bet hanal shebo merumaz amira v'dibur. If only I could use all these letters and say them completely. Even that is not the deeper resolve thing I was talking about. That's a little bit the introduction, you guys. Are you sure you still want to go for this? It gets really liminal. But I think I get it, and I think I'm there with it. And I think I'm there with what it is, and I hope I can make it accessible. Od omer lecha. This is Daled. Od omer lecha. I still want to say you to you. I want to say to you. Al pi kavanat Maran Arizal b'gma b'gimel rishonot shmona esrei gimel shemot levushe Hashem anichbad hem tidhar kuzu atzpat. In the three blessings, the Trinity that is the first blessing of the 18 blessings. Do you know what I'm talking about? The fundamental Jewish prayer that we say in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening is the 18 blessings, which are secretly 19 blessings. But the first of these has three acknowledgements in it. But then in that acknowledgement is three names, right? The Tetragrammaton, Yud He Vav He, which turns into Tidhar, Tet Daled He Resh. Chav Vav Zayin Vav, the inversion of the same Tetragrammaton into the letters after. It's after Yud is Chaf, after He is Vav, after Vav is Zayin, and after He is Vav, Kuzu. Doesn't that sound vulgar? That's a rough one. I don't feel as good saying that one as I do Tidhar. Tidhar is a great name. I know a guy named Tidhar. A couple guys, they're great. Companies and services named Tidhar, they're great. I don't want to say Chaf, Vav, Zayin, Vav. But Machpach. That's a reversal I'm not familiar with. And I think we can guess that the tzaddik is a He, and it's Atbash. It's just the opposite spectrum direction. Whereas the Yud is the 10th letter from the beginning, Mem is the 10th letter from the end. And similarly, tzaddik is the 5th letter from the end, and Pei is the 6th letter from the end. A complete reversal, a complete contrapositive for the first three uses of the seal of the Tetragrammaton in the prayer, which is done, famously by saying Adonai, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Eloheinu, and let's say that Ramo Yitzchak Yaakov Adonai. Much more again. And there it is again. That one gets a kuzu. And I think that's the Machpach. Is there another one he's talking about? I think that's what he's talking about. The three first Yud Kei Vav Keis and Shmona Esrei, they're pronounced just, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, all of them. just pronouncing normal, man. Just like, I don't know, just normal. But the intention, let's see, imagining Yud Hey Vav Hey, but also imagining the letters right before, the letters right after, and the letters at the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the resurrection somehow. These are the three coverings, the three garments, the three dressings of the holy name. Hashem Nichbad. If you put them all together, all these letters, all these four sets of letters together, they're gematria Shin Samech Aleph, 361. Minyan Hashvatim Asher Mehem Yitgalu Bimhira Train Mashichin Hainu Yehuda Ephraim. If you put these three contrapositives together, they are the gematria of the two future messiahs. Now, we've discussed many, many, many times, but can't discuss it too much, the contrasting messiahs of Ephraim and Yehuda. Ephraim, Mashiach, drives the car like this, very purposefully looks at the rule book, does things really right, fails in his wonderful way. And I liken him unto Grover, does very nerdy things, Grover. He's sort of a Yoda, but what if Yoda was not wise, but was, trying his best? And fails. Super Grover fails. Everyone takes care of things on top of Grover. The tzaddik in Ephraim and in Yosef generally dies. Generally, because the rules themselves, the luchot themselves, break. But maybe there's a piece in that can be deeply reconciled in our relationship to our principles, in our relationship to our laws, a deep, abiding hearing of them in a way that takes them just the right kind of seriously, that doesn't turn them into idols, but turns them into just wisdom, just structural wisdom, just a good sense of how to work, but with space for noticing the experience of better and worse, which is the main reconciliation of the Judah Messiah, King David, and so on, the ultimate Messiah, let's say, Mashiach ben David, Yehuda Ephraim is gematria 361, just like these three names. And this is the secret of the two Messiahs, resolved within the three names. The implicit fourth name, not included. The correct normal spelling. And this is the difference between the three-letter name of God and the four-letter name of God, and between, I'd say, the full dimensions before the critique and after the critique, before the thing that becomes a problem, and after the lesson has been learned that integrates whatever the criticism of the problem is into the better future already in progress, already unavoidably in progress, because we can't help but understand how much better, how much brighter, how much rougher, how much worse. And may they fulfill, these two fixings, the fixing of the relationship to structuralism that lets us notice the true, real good and humanity of each other. Because Shlomo and David are internationalists, and they love the human more than the other thing, but are committed to the other thing. And this is the degree to which they're good and trusted and justified within the core priorities of the law and of the structures and of the principles that build the institutions that are really supposed to support the really good core thing, noticing, being right, taking care, partying. And that ostensibly is when it's supposed to be and able to be a holiday, which is very much our experience of the summer, when things are right, when the good overflows. And then it'll reveal the glory of God, Havaya, in the aspect of Havaya, like it says in Isaiah 40, section 5. Please understand the thing. That's pretty far in the thing hole, right? Fundamental 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's pretty elemental. It could be a little much. Maybe we should stop there for at least a little while. Or maybe just one more, because that was Dalit, that was 4. Maybe we should make one more Indiana Jones film, just so everyone can feel whole about George Lucas's spin on the thing, where he brings the Nazis back. Nazis really are the worst. There is no bad guy who justifies American liberalism or conservatism like the Nazis. Sorry, Soviets can't do it, and Shia LaBeouf couldn't do it. Sorry. Carrie Allen eventually does. Sala totally has to, because the future is brown and all the future libs are going to be Salas in their way. I was very disappointed that they didn't deal with the Suez Canal War more, especially since it had to do so much with the CIA smuggling Nazis in the 40s and 50s. So one would think that they would have built on that, but that's not what they can do. Only Allah can do that. But here is the 5th, right? But just want to say, contemplate a little more. Just notice and hear a little more about this intention in the 3 names that we described above. Tidhar and his brothers. Like, in the first one, it's Tidhar, because they're cool, they're wonderful, the Avos. Even the worst of them is still given a lot. Tidhar Bigvurat Hashem Havaya Mitlabashem Kuzu, in the restraints, in the Mechaya Mesim, Gvurot, Gadol Gibor. It's the Kuzu. It's the after thing. Ubekadush Hashem, which is so it's the 3rd blessing over there at the Chatima at the end of El HaKadosh. After the Kedusha, after the angels. The Chatima at the very end of the El HaKadosh, the big Trinity, the resolution of whom is, everyone gets to sit down and just listen to the rest of them. The name is dressed in matchpatch, in the reversal, in the Atbash. V'hinei Gimel Shemot Havaya im Gimel Shemot Levushim Hanal im Akol Kolam Yachad Lam Tikadinim B'Gematria Tam. Simple, perfect. Tam. 440. The 3 names crossed with the 3 names. The 3 real regular, just tetragrammatons, 26, 26, 26, plus the 3 dressings. We said that was 361. 361 plus 78. 361 plus 70, 378 plus 61, 388 plus 51, 398 plus 41, 399 plus 40, 400 plus 39, 439 tam. Plus the kolel to sweeten the judgments, he said. The kolel, just one more, 339. 439. Sorry. The Hu Gematria, Chesed, Din, V'Rachamim. And this is in Gematria of the 3 things activated here. Chesed, kindness, creative will, right? Can be a little much, but who cares? Who knows? Chesed. Din, well, hold on. Here's what it is. Judgment can be a little much. And then the resolution between the 2, mercy, Rachamim. So the gematria of these 3 reconciliations, which are the heart of all prayer and all harmony and all reconciliation itself and all resolution. Because to do resolution, you need reconciliation with. Chesed, Din, V'Rachamim. It's also gematria. Uman nechmad hadavar lekivun ze ba'avot Elokei Abraham Elokei Yitzchak Elokei Yaakov El Gadol Hagibor Ve'Hanora. And what a sweet delightful little intention this is to have in mind when we say that part, Elokei Abraham, the God of Abraham, who wanted to give, the God of Yitzchak, who noticed what you had to do, the God of Yaakov, who had mercy on everything and everyone, the great, mighty, and awesome. And another vision for another time, maybe you can come with all that, to have mercy on us like the days of forever. He has one more, you guys. Plus the kolel, vav. והנה התבונן עוד, הנה גמל ראשוניות, יש לכיוון הגמל שמות הנ"ל בגמטריה שין, עם הכולל. If you contemplate further, these three names, with the three names before, are gematria shin, 360, with the kolel, because it's 359, or 361 rather. The achronot, Elohim Eloi, Ayin, Ritzeh, V'sham Adni, Gamkim, B'gematria, Shin. And so the three last ones, in Elohim, if you fill the hin, the haze, 295, and the name Adni, the four-letter name that we do pronounce, the way we do pronounce it, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, 51, 52, 56, also that times that is also 360. B'gematria Sim Shalom, B'gematria Shin Shin, place peace. Sim Shalom, place peace is gematria Shin Shin, two shins, 360, 360. Each shin is 360, which does put a spin on the sin and samech dynamic that has long confounded Islamic mathematicians. Let's say, and if the six names above, would come together into the holy name and the central name, and they would be six names, they'd be the name of the six, which is a thing, six is the vav, which is Zeranpin. And understand, and this is vav, this is the little one extra on top of the hay, and this is going to hint to what comes after the concern of Cancer and Leo, the hope of Virgo with his vav, Virgo. Hine Megamatria Tashach, 400, 320, 720. So if you put all these things together, 720. This is the secret of the circulation of the point of kindness into the entire homo structure of the 10. The Sphirot. Hainu Yud Pamim Ayin Bet, that is to say 10 times 72, 720. Mi Bereshit Kazot, Hodat HaTeva Rishona B'Torah Bereshit. And from this Genesis, from this origin, gave knowledge, gave acknowledgement of the letter, the first letter, gave respect, gave acknowledgement, I think is the word, of the first letter in the Torah. The first word, Bereshit, has 720 tserufim. That first word, Bereshit, if you turn all those letters, all those different ways, there's 720 of them. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, factorial. It quotes the Likutei Torah of the Arizal on that one. The 720 made from the extremes juxtaposed, back together for the reconciliation that is the circulation and the inclusion. That gave birth to that one word that makes a new thing possible. Bereshit. And I already wrote over there, in the whole thing about Shabbos says at some point earlier on. B'tevat Bereshit ner mizimha Gimel Gilim Nehemiah ben Chushiel Menachem ben Amiel Eliyahu b'Gemara Bereshit. And I've already talked to you about this. Hidden in the word Genesis is the three messiahs, the famous three messiahs. Nehemiah from Chushiel, son of Chushiel. Menachem, son of Amiel. Two famous names for just classic messiahs. Eliyahu. And they're not mentioning the other one, Yinon. Gematria, Bereshit, Genesis, the beginning that includes all the things. Indiana Jones and his hat. The love and the crush that made the whole thing problematic, that brings them together still. That is the resolution and the end of the war, and end of the fleeing into the past or the future. Well, maybe into the future. Bad example. Od ani medaber b'kavanat hasha'ot shel elu hayamim. He wants to say more about the hours, but I just can't, you guys. Let's catch up, okay? Chag Sameach, Chag Kushid B'Samayoch.